Thank you all for standing. If we join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. She's coming. We're almost ready. Thank you. Ms. Snyder, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Marino.
Here.
Vice Mayor Marciano.
Here.
Councilmember Woods.
Here, ma'am.
Councilmember Lane.
Here.
Councilmember Litt.
Here. Thank you. Do we have any additions, deletions, or modifications?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. So now we're on to announcements and presentations. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Diane Goldberg from Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center. Thank you. Goldenberg. Diane, did I say it wrong? Goldenberg?
That's close enough. I would say for government work, but I won't say that right.
Diane Goldenberg.
Okay, done. So thank you very much for allowing me to present. I'm the new CEO of Palm Beach Gardens. I've been there since about middle of June and have survived the almost hurricane, and want to thank once again the support from the city on that. Just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about our wonderful hospital, and I love this picture. Can you see it up there? This is in 1968 when Palm Beach Gardens opened its doors, and you can see it's a layout and quite a different sign, and I love the cars there. But that was a long time ago. And now, as you can see, we started out a long time ago with a single story. Now we have 3 stories. We only had 42 doctors on staff, and now we have over 400 on our medical staff. Then we were 48 beds, and now we're 199. I'll round up to 200. 100 volunteers and over 900 employees. So basically, just want to make sure that everybody knows that we are trying to take very good care of almost 75,000 patients who have been admitted and seen at our hospital and outpatient for outpatient work. Our annual hospital admissions are 9,765, so almost 10,000, and our ER sees over 35,000 patients. And of course, we're very good partners, I hope, and continue to be with our EMS and fire rescue folks. We do have an economic impact on Palm Beach Gardens. Our salaries and benefits are $67 million plus, and cost of charity and uncompensated care is over $21 million. We pay $7 million plus in taxes, and our capital investments over $28 million, and our total local vendor support is over $32 million. So a pretty good economic machine. And so what is it that we do? We are an advanced tertiary medical center which offers a full spectrum of healthcare services. And of course, hopefully everybody knows that we're a very prominent heart and vascular institute in South Florida. We have ER services, a strong ortho and joint replacement program, advanced neuroscience network. We're a certified primary stroke center. We have neurosurgery and an epilepsy monitoring unit, which is the only one in North Palm Beach County. And then we offer urology, robotic surgery. We have women's services, diagnostic imaging, state-of-the-art 256 slice CT, and cardiac rehab services. And so just to highlight a couple of our extensive and comprehensive services, 35 years of cardiac experiences, 17,700 open heart surgeries. That's a lot of hearts that have been saved, 100,000 cardiac caths. TAVR's a new procedure, and it's basically a minimally invasive way to replace aortic valves. 6G MitraClips. It's another structural heart new and advanced procedure, as well as Convergent, which is a bleeding edge technology. No pun intended again on the cardiac experience. We do offer a variety of orthopedic services, something that probably might not be so well known to our community, but we're developing a musculoskeletal institute because we have all of the services in orthopedics, from total joint replacement to hip and knee replacement, shoulder surgery, sports medicine, and very important is a nurse navigator and preoperative classes, our joint institute, and a dedicated orthopedic unit. I've already told you we have a very busy ER. We're very excited about that. Our ED throughput, which is a measurement and metric that's important, how fast you can get in. It's some of the best I've ever seen in my career at 132 minutes. Stroke time. If you come in and you're diagnosed with a stroke, it's important for us to get your medication to you quickly, and we do that in under 47 minutes. We really work together with Fire Rescue. We do community lectures. We partner with them and try to provide education to the team, and once again, just really working closely together to serve our community. We love our pictures. Maria, see you there. And then the other thing is we really want to provide care to our community, not only when they're sick, but also keeping them healthy. Free screenings, education, yoga classes, healthy cooking. We're here for you no matter what the need is. And of course, we have award-winning health care right in your own backyard. Thank you very much. I was told I had 3 to 5. Hopefully I kept to that, and I appreciate the chance to be here tonight.
You did great. Thank you. And you have your card in case anybody wants further information. They can contact Diane. She's right here. Get her card. Alrighty, next on the agenda, and when you come forward, speak into the microphone because we've been having a little microphone issue. So may I please have Kevin Simmons and Shauna Christensen from the Weiss School, and you can introduce your kids.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Simmons. I have the privilege of leading the aerospace and CubeSat efforts at the Weiss School. We're very appreciative of the opportunity to share with you what we've been doing with our CubeSat program and debate program.
And I'm Shauna Christensen, that debate coach at our school. When Kevin and I received the invite to come speak with you this evening, we were so excited because there is so much to share with you. But we knew that it would be much more beneficial for you to hear it from the students themselves. So we're going to turn it over to Lily Shasharowski and Evan Vera first, who will tell you about the history of the Weiss CubeSat development team.
Thank you. Remember, speak it to the microphone so everyone can hear.
The Weiss CubeSat development team was first founded in the 2015-2016 school year by our science teacher, Mr. Kevin Simmons. The team was founded with a single mission in mind: to design, build, test, and fly a CubeSat into space in the next 3 years. Working towards this goal, we partnered with the University of Florida to work on the technology behind the CubeSat. We were then able to conduct a captive carry flight with a Generation Orbit, and we were later given the opportunity to speak at the respectable AIAA banquets on multiple occasions. Working even closer to our goal, we were able to design and build multiple prototypes of the CubeSat itself, as well as plan and design the missions that we would one day conduct with our CubeSat. Here's Evan Vera with more on what the CubeSat development team has done so far.
In the short time that our organization has been around, we have proven to be both an ambitious and well-organized association that is ready for the challenges of aeronautics and education. Because of the connections that we've made and the opportunities that we've been given, we've been able to learn from our past missions, such as the high-altitude balloon set and our captive carry flights, and have been able to take these skills into the next generation. We are the future of aeronautics and education, and if there's anywhere that the Weiss CubeSat development team is going to be going to, it's the stars. And now to introduce Zachary Carmack to tell you about the emulator.
At the Weiss School, what students of the Weiss School learn about CubeSats through CubeSat emulators, which, as you can see here, are the insides. The outside of a CubeSat is called a chassis, and we 3D print our chassis at the Weiss School. Our emulators come from Blue Cube, which is a company that produces products for this kind of mission. Our computing system is a Raspberry Pi, which is a small but still very powerful computer, which, as you can see, easily fits inside of the CubeSat. The Raspberry Pi, as I've said before, is very powerful and uses and processes the data from our camera and sensors. It also sends the data through Wi-Fi to our ground stations. Now to my teammate Theodore Ouyang to tell you more about the CubeSat.
Thank you. A CubeSat is a cube-shaped nanosatellite. CubeSats were created in 1990 to teach university students how to design, build, test, and fly satellites in the 4 years that they were in college. CubeSats can be defined as disruptive technology as they are now an accepted alternative to the previous satellite platforms, which are 10,000 times more expensive. CubeSats are extremely versatile and today conduct missions related to monitoring the weather, verifying spaceflight materials, exploring the solar system, and conducting science experiments. 30 years ago, only nations could build satellites. Today, our middle school is. Now is William Mayville to talk about our high-altitude balloon mission.
The Weiss CubeSat team has launched a high-altitude balloon mission as a preparatory stage for the 2018 WeissSat-1 launch. The high-altitude balloon mission was launched to test equipment including emulators, which my colleague Zachary Carmack just informed you about. We used the Global Star Network to track the balloon, and Global Star informed us that the balloon landed in the Caribbean. A balloon achieved an altitude of 67,000 feet, and we used GPS to find the balloon. The wind pushed the balloon east for around 95% of its course. We will launch another high-altitude balloon mission next month. Here is Owen Welsh to speak about WeissSat-1.
The Weiss School's current mission is the WeissSat-1. Its purpose is to test and investigate the survivability of extremophile bacteria in the cold, harsh conditions of space. Extremophiles are any organism that thrive in harsh conditions such as the vacuum of space or glacial ice. We were chosen by NASA to launch our CubeSat from either the Florida Kennedy Space Center or the Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. This is a true honor for a middle school like us. We also expect to be manifested soon by Alana 24 mission, or the educational launch of nanosatellites, to be launched in late 2018. Once in low Earth orbit, our satellite has a payload of a lab on a chip, which will test the viability of these extremophile bacteria. In other words, it will test the survivability of these bacteria as a function of time. This mission is important because it can show whether bacteria can survive in these icy comets orbiting throughout the universe to see if they could survive the same way they do in glaciers on Earth. If they do, they could be seeding planets around the universe with basic life, which could evolve further on to be like a race like us today. We are looking forward to working with NASA as well as private contractors to carry out a successful mission. Here's Adia Shaw to talk to you about how debate relates and supports our current mission.
I am the vice president of the debate team at Weiss. Annually, students from the aerospace and debate teams converge on Congress' behalf of the Space Exploration Alliance. The SEA is a collaboration of leading nonprofit organizations that advocate for the exploration and development of outer space and that advocate for increases on NASA's budget. Students are briefed by NASA to better understand their needs. and discuss talking points with SEA leaders. We then meet all Florida representatives and senators or their staffers to discuss key issues. Combining our speaking skills and passion of space helps enact real change, and we look forward to working again with the SEA. We also look forward to expanding our legislative experience into other realms, which Mackenzie Grizzard will tell you about next.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mackenzie, and I'm the president of the debate team at the Weiss School. Recently, our CubeSat development team, in conjunction with our debate team, drafted a non-binding resolution in which we sent out to Congressman Brian Mast, Chief Legislative Director. We aim to take this all the way to the Appropriations Committee and then hopefully to all members of the House. Our legislation will be beneficial in providing underprivileged students with the opportunity to build and launch CubeSat technology into low Earth orbit. The legislation specifically talks about NASA's federal funding for the CubeSat launch initiative, which is at an alarmingly low rate in their budget. Since science and engineering are such important aspects of our society, it is imperative that we take every opportunity that we can to innovate and to educate. We are very excited for our future opportunities and hope that you are just as excited as we are. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
I do have a quick question. What's the actual size? Is that the actual size of the cube that's going to go up in space? Perfect. Thank you.
And that goes in a balloon?
Yes.
Goes up by itself?
We are actually going to be launching.
Speak into the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
We're actually going to be launching through either a SpaceX mission or private contractors to the International Space Station, where they will be deployed into low Earth orbit, or it could be launched through the private contractors directly into an orbit.
Wonderful.
Can we see it?
Absolutely. Can we take a group picture with all of you?
Can we touch it?
Come on down.
Don't break.
Don't let the big guy touch it. Thank you all. Travel safely home. Okay, are we ready to move on? Next on the agenda would be FP&L, and may I bring up Don Kieslewski. Let's see, I've known you for how long?
A while. Mayor, council members, thank you very much. My name is Don Kieslewski, Florida Power and Light Company. That is a tough act to follow. Holy cow. We are pleased to join you tonight. We have an item coming up on your consent agenda talking about how we can bring solar into the community. It's a voluntary program supported by our customers. I'm going to turn the program over to a Palm Beach Garden resident, a member of our development team, Anuj Choksi, who's going to talk a little bit more about Solar Now.
All right, thank you, Don, and thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Anuj Choksi. I'm with Florida Power and Light's development team. Today we're going to talk to you about FPL Solar Now program. It is a terrestrial solar program, so everything's here on Earth. The FPL Solar Now program is an easy way for our customers to support solar in Florida and our local communities. Our customers have the ability to contribute $9 a month on their electric bills to support solar in their community, and we utilize those contributions to bring solar projects to the communities in the states and throughout our territory. An integral piece of this is certainly the partnership that we have with our local community folks and Palm Beach Gardens in this case. And so we're very excited to be here to talk about some applications of solar within Palm Beach Gardens. Palm Beach County actually has around 3,000, close to 3,000 participants that are in the program currently, with Palm Beach Gardens having over 130 Solar Now participants. So it's really exciting that the constituents are excited about solar and want to learn more about solar and see solar in the community. There's several benefits of the program to Palm Beach Gardens. Certainly, it's funded by the program participants, so there's no cost to Palm Beach Gardens, and FPL maintains those structures for the life of the term. It highlights some of the other sustainability initiatives that the city has ongoing, like the EV charger program and some of the other things that are underway. We also want to recognize the participants that are contributing in the program, and these solar structures have a unique way of definitely recognizing those participants. And along with that, each structure has a text backplate which directs folks to a custom microsite, which we partner with Palm Beach Gardens to develop and talk about some of the activities in Palm Beach Gardens related to sustainability, talk about solar, the benefits of solar, educate folks, and a little bit about the program as well. And then lastly, we want to integrate solar into an aesthetically pleasing way. So you can see here in the picture and with the previous picture that our structures are meant to look less like electrical infrastructure. We wanted something that was really amazing and looked well in the community. And you can even see with the panels, they're a glass-on-glass panel, a frameless panel, and we have a unique railing system that hides all the wires and that sort of thing. So we want it to be more of an architectural solar than, like I said, electrical infrastructure. Here's a look at the Joseph Russo Athletic Complex and the solar canopy that's proposed there, and here's a rendering of how that would look over there. And you can see that, it's a very progressive design, very clean lines, and provide shading to the sidewalk and the parking spots that are just in front of the park there. The next area, or the next proposed location, are two what we're calling solar trees that are at the Palm Beach Gardens Aquatics Complex at the splash pad that's there. And what's very neat about these is, these structures are about 20 to 25 feet high, and they use the same neat panels and that sort of thing. A little bit about these structures. They are hurricane rated to meet the hurricane wind loads, even down, if needed, to the Miami-Dade wind loads. They do not need to be removed or anything like that during a hurricane, so from a maintenance standpoint, they are a lot easier to maintain than like some of those adjacent umbrellas and that sort of thing. And the solar trees themselves provide around 200 square feet of shading, so especially at the hottest time of the day. And then the power from these structures go back to the electric grid. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions, and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Rochelle?
It's my understanding that the power generated from the facilities in Palm Beach Gardens stays in Palm Beach Gardens. Is that correct? When it goes back to the grid, do we get, the city gets the benefit of what's generated here?
Yeah, so the power does go back to the grid, and typically, we necessarily can't control where the electrons go. It's kind of like water. But because of the size of these structures, I'd say that it's fair to say that the electrons are going to get back used and consumed just in that same area, that same facility.
Any other questions? Oh, excuse me. Our city manager has a question.
I don't have a question. I just want to give a thank you to Councilmember Litt for bringing this program to our attention. I know through a conversation she had with Don that she learned about this and shared that information with us, which prompted us to have an immediate meeting with FPL and Don and his team, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Carl?
What would be the goal on how many of these structures would you want around the city, and are you going to try and put it into like some of our shopping centers? I know that's private property, or what's a goal for a city of our size?
So we're trying to spread the benefits around our territory, certainly where we see the participation and that sort of thing. So right now, we've in fact we're a little oversubscribed on the program, and so we're a little limited to do more. But as we have more participants, there's more opportunities to do that. And as far as the private areas, we look where people congregate as a community, where people come together as a community, and where there's a wide demographic of folks, so that we can educate and inspire a wide variety of people on solar. So those are the areas that we would typically target. And so if there is an area like a town center or something like that that makes sense, that might be private, we would work with that sort of entity. But we typically approach cities and areas like the ones that we have here first.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
No, thank you. Same question.
Okay. Is anyone on the council signed up for this program? So I'm not, so you can sign me up.
Yeah. All right.
And with that, I think we're done. Thank you so much for the presentation.
All right. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is items of resident interest and board committee reports. And before we get started, I want to say why the council is a little casual this evening. You will notice we all are wearing different kinds of shirts, and this is just some of the events that we support as a council, as individuals. We supported a softball tournament, Palm Beach State College, the Mayor's Golf Tournament, and I got to say, I've already gotten a bunch of people that said they want to buy these shirts. Do you have any shirts left? Okay, so these are in support of our Palm Beach Gardens Fire Rescue. So that's why we're looking a little casual this evening, but we wanted you all to know that there's a lot that goes on in our city, and we are in support of it. So I will continue on with committee reports and board reports. Rochelle.
Another very busy month, and it wasn't even a whole month, from October 12th to November 2nd. On Friday, October 13th, I visited the Weiss School and had a first-hand introduction to CubeSat, met with Dr. Ferguson and Mr. Simmons, and discussed the program, and was treated to their Friday morning weekly show, and it's really a special place in our community, and I urge everybody to really pay attention to what's going on there. These kids are going to be the next generation of scientists and debaters that we have. On October 14th, there was Pitch for the Cure through the Palm Beach Gardens Youth Athletic Association. We were all out there on the mounds as cancer survivors and their children threw the first pitches for the girls softball tournament. On the 15th, there was a meeting of Palm Beach County Cares. We've been working, the mayor and I, along with 25 or so other stakeholders in the city, to raise awareness and gather supplies for Puerto Rico. As of today, we had 72 pallets that went today to 71 orphanages in Puerto Rico. The supplies were sent to Miami yesterday, and they flew out this morning, I understand. So we're kind of avoiding FEMA and the red tape, governmental red tape at this point, and getting the supplies exactly to where they need to go, working with the University of Puerto Rico and their students on the other end. Let's see. On the 17th, the League of Cities legislative update with our state legislators. The 18th, Palm Beach County North Chamber breakfast. On the 19th, we had our first transportation workshop. If you were here before the meeting tonight, Kim gave an overview of the results of that workshop, and there was one that evening for the community. And Also on the 19th, the council, along with our fire chief and our police chief and city manager, read to the children over at the Riverside Center. It was called, what was it? Read for the Record. And it was a national program to read for children, and we read the book Quackers, and it was a lovely morning with the kids. And that night I attended a United Way dinner sponsored by FP&L on women's leadership. On the 26th, there was a Palm Beach North Chamber event sponsored by the Hanley Foundation, and it dealt with legal drugs in the workplace. So we're talking now about medical marijuana and how that's going to affect workers and employers, because it is legal, and what options they have. And let's see, and then today there was the Central Palm Beach Chamber, and it was a mobility luncheon. And again, we heard from Nick Urin, who is with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, who talked about the future of mobility, that we can't pave our way out of our traffic situation, that we need to look forward for other alternatives to make our cities more mobile and decrease traffic. And it was sponsored by Brightline, and they talked about the status of Brightline at this point. And tonight.
Thank you. Matthew.
Okay. I attended a Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee meeting, Chamber of Commerce breakfast where cybersecurity was discussed, a mobility workshop at the Emergency Operations Center. We all read for the record to the children at the Riverside Center, which I can honestly say is one of the highlights of my time on council. It was great. I was in the Gardens High School Parade for homecoming. Went to the Palm Beach Gardens Predators Tournament, which was incredible. It was really well done. I went to a PGA Quarter Association breakfast. Went to a Chamber of Commerce Woman of the Year luncheon. And Maria Marino was named as the Woman of the Year by the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce. Went to a meeting of the North County Neighborhood Coalition, attended the Police Foundation reception, went to the Palm Beach Gardens Fall Fest where we had thousands of residents. It was a great, great night, and met with many constituents. People ask, what do we do when we're not here? And I was told people want to know. So just an example is October 19th, we had a PGA Quarter Association breakfast. We had a Chamber of Commerce lunch. At 4 o'clock, there was the NCNC meeting. And at 6 o'clock, there was another meeting. So that's what we do when we're not sitting here.
Carl, I know you're going to do something different.
Nope, I'm not going to go over the meetings that we all went to because you guys cover those excellently. So, but I usually try and do something that's completely different, either with staff, police, fire, or something with the community. But this last 3 weeks, I was just totally ingrained in meeting and speaking with as many residents as possible to help guide me on this term limits issue, and that's where my focus was. So try and make sure I make the right decision for the community and direct me as the citizens want. So I have nothing exciting like I normally do, but I'll try harder next month.
Thank you. And Mark?
Well, you were at probably all the events I was at as well. So softball Pitch for the Cure was really great to see all the young kids out there with their pink hair, socks, shirts. Florida League of Cities Legislative Review with Rochelle, Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce, the TOD workshops, Read for the Record, attended a Rec Advisory Board meeting, PGA Corridor Association meeting, was happy to support our Mayor and Women of the Year for the Palm Beach North Chamber. Probably my highlight was Principal for a Day at Duncan Middle School. I knew a number of the kids there, and it was fun getting high fives from all of them as they were walking by. So that's a great, great facility, and we've got some great teachers and administrators at our local middle schools. Fall Festival at Burns Road, amazing, the number of people. I mean, the line to get into the you were waiting in line, and it was a long line.
I never missed an opportunity
for free candy. You didn't have to dress up as anything either, did you? No. I was amazed. My kids are too old to think that that's cool, so they didn't want to go, but my wife and I had a great time there. and we played golf at the Gardens Foundation. And just like Carl, I don't know how many conversations I've had with how many residents, but I think the most important thing that I think the residents want to know from us, these are all events that's nice. We do try to represent the city and learn about what other people are doing, but more importantly, our responsibility is to the residents of our city to make sure that we are listening, we're hearing the concerns, the complaints, the sometimes pats on the back, usually not, but really just to bring that information and help shape our feelings and opinions on what we think is going to be best for the city. So I spoke with countless residents, and I thank all of you who took my call and gave me your opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. My list is really long. A lot of it has already been said. And so, as Mark says, summarize. This is my list, so I'm not going to read it all. But as I've said in previous meetings, that many of the meetings and many of these projects are things that are going to take 3, 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So as stakeholders, we need to be present at these meetings, and we need to discuss what's going on in our city and how our city, can you hear me okay? And how our city has to work with other cities, especially if we're going to do a tri-rail station that's going to go through other cities. We need to be talking about that. But as for meetings attended, yes, all the chamber stuff, the transit-oriented design workshops, which the resident one that Kim was indicating was very interesting. We did have a handful of residents that were there, and I did appreciate them coming because it's their input that we are looking for. It's important. We did, I had a North County Intergovernmental Committee meeting. FP&L did a presentation there, as long as also with Palm Beach County Emergency Operations Center and Solid Waste Authority on the impact of Hurricane Irma. And I do have to say again, the city of Palm Beach Gardens in less than 30 days picked up 60,000 cubic yards of debris and was able to pay for it and get it done because of our strong reserves, and we don't have to wait for FEMA to reimburse us. So I applaud our city manager and our staff, especially for sharing the resources they did to get that done. And I'm going to say it over and over again. Thank you. You did a phenomenal job. I'd also like to add, I don't know if you noticed when you came in, but there are a bunch of photos outside. We have an annual resident photo contest, and those are the photos outside. So please, when you're leaving today, take a look at them. They're phenomenal. They're from all over the city, and there even was a mayor's choice there, and I'll let you guys pick your own choice for which one you like the best. Palm Beach North, I mean, we do a lot with the Palm Beach Chamber, the Palm Beach North Chamber, and it's a good way for us to interact with the businesses. The PGA Corridor Association is another organization that we work well with. I was happy to be the moderator at our breakfast, and hope everyone that was there learned a lot about transportation. Kim was a presenter, Natalie was a presenter, and Nikki Wren from the Metropolitan Planning Organization was also there. Interesting thing happened. We had a town hall meeting, and I was a presenter for the possible annexation of Bay Hill and Rustic Acres into the city of Palm Beach Gardens. They approached us about it, so we're here to answer all their questions. And we also had coffee and conversation with the mayor that was posted on our website, and I was happy that we had a lot of people show up for that. It was well received, and it was supposed to be an hour. And Julian, thank you for coming. We had a representative from Palm Beach State College that came, so it was very nice to have some youth in the audience. I appreciate it. Palm Beach Gardens Explorers Tournament, so we raised money for the Palm Beach Gardens Police Explorers. Oh my gosh, Suits for Seniors. I don't know if this is a program that you all may have heard of in the past. I've been a speaker for them for several times, and they do a wonderful job of graduating their seniors and teaching them life skills and how to present themselves and how to do an interview and what's important in life and how to make good career decisions. Chief Breyer, thank you for being there with me the other day. I appreciate that. Port of Palm Beach was the home of Palm Beach County Cares, as Rochelle mentioned earlier. We've had meetings all month, and actually I'd like to say a thank you to our fire department, because Station 3 was a drop-off area where we manned that the last 2 Saturdays. There's been we had 72, as Rochelle said, 72,000 pounds went out. We've collected almost 200,000 pounds, and there'll be another shipment going out next week also. We also have a fundraiser, and I don't know if it's proper for me to say this or not, but as the mayor and as a A group of local elected officials are getting together to do this. We are having a fundraiser at Bear Lakes November 11th. And I look forward to seeing everyone there if you're able to be there. My gosh, ribbon cuttings, Pitch for the Cure, delivering a couple of proclamations. So, yes, it was a busy month, and it was over 30 meetings, and some days it was from 6:45 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. And we do it for our city because we love our city and because we want to be as well educated as possible so we can make the best decisions possible. And in all of that, it also is answering emails and phone calls and listening to our residents, whether it's positive or negative. And we're here and we do make the best effort to do the best job for all of our residents. And having said that, we are now done with items of resident interest, and we are moving on to comments from the public. So I have several cards here for items that are not on the agenda. And Katie, I have a card. Is it for here? Because it does say the workshop. So but you want to speak here tonight? Okay, come on up. Please state your name and address for the record and speak into the microphone because we're having some microphone issues.
Okay. Does that work? Okay. Katie Gettinger, 4250 Hickory Drive, Palm Beach Gardens. I'm speaking to you on behalf of the League of Women Voters. The League is partnering with the Sierra Club as well as a local nonprofit called Florida Solar United Neighborhoods, or FLSUN, to establish a solar cooperative in Palm Beach County. A solar cooperative is a group of 50 to 100 neighbors who are interested in putting solar panels on their roofs. Generally, when you buy items in bulk, you can reduce the cost per item. So Solar Cooperative is using that principle to reduce the cost of buying solar panels. By banding people together, they're able to purchase solar panels in bulk and get better prices per panel. Also, they select the contractor together, and the contractor learns all the installation rules for the area. So installation is done properly and fulfills the code requirements. There have been 19 solar cooperatives in other areas of Florida, so this is not a new idea, and the people who help facilitate the groups have experience and are nonprofit entities. There will be informational meetings in November, December, and January. The first one will be held on Wednesday, November 15th at 6:30 at the Boynton Beach City Library. And the website for the co-op is flsun.org. So thank you.
Thank you. Next would be Andrew Heim, and after that, Steve Matheson.
Andrew Heim, 5124 Desert Vixen, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. I'm here tonight on behalf of a member of the PBGYA Soccer Division Board. I've been on the board for the last 10 years, and as Matthew said, he was at the tournament we just had 2 weeks ago. Just wanted to give you an update on the Palm Beach Gardens Predators, the Classic. This was our 4th event, the biggest one to date. And I want to thank the city, Laura and her team, Tim Ford, Daniel Prieto, Lindsay Marsh, and Corey Wilder and his group. We had a ton of rain leading into the tournament as well as during the tournament, and they maintained the facilities, absolutely beautiful. We did lose some games because of it, but overall it was a tremendous success. We had over 212 teams this year, which is the largest we've ever had. We had teams from Tampa, Jacksonville, Gainesville, Orlando, all over the state of Florida. Our preliminary numbers right now are about 500 room nights. That'll be impacting the city as far as economic impact, and I'll work with everyone with the city on getting those numbers together. But very excited with the success of that, and just want to say thank you to the city. And I was at the Rec Advisory Board meeting a few weeks ago, so we were hopeful that the new facility at Russo, the fields coming online, are a little delayed. They're talking now January of 2019, so it won't be ready for our next year's tournament. But we are hopeful that facility will come online, because that will absolutely be a game changer for this tournament and for other events that we could hold in the city. That would really drive some economic impact and so forth. So
thank you. Again, thanks to the city and everything they do for that. It was a fantastic event. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew.
And we will get that park built for you as fast as humanly possible.
And by the way, I was living at the fields all weekend. Andrew, you guys did a great, great job, and my U17 boys won their division, so that was actually very exciting.
Yeehaw. Thank you.
I can be a proud father. It's fine. It's fine.
Steve Matheson and then Kevin Easton.
Thank you, Mayor Marino. I'm Steve Matheson, here tonight on behalf of the PGA Corridor Association, serving as its Economic Development Chair. As I know you all know already, our mission is to preserve, enhance, and promote the PGA Corridor as the premier business location in Palm Beach County. We believe that with your help, with your constant teamwork, we're achieving that goal. Just listening to you all tonight and all of the activities each of you have attended this last month and brought forward the mission and the message of our city gives us great strength, and we appreciate it. And we know it's not taken for granted. Listening tonight to the Weiss School, which is doing amazing things, FPL, which is our partner in so many ways, and shows the leadership of Palm Beach Gardens and Northern Palm Beach County, makes us sure that as we continue visioning the city and Northern Palm Beach County, we will all succeed and we will all be proud. Today, we're facing many issues: growth, charter review, things that make a difference in our future. We as a Corridor Association are here to support you, and we feel that continuity, that mentoring, that bringing forward the city together is important. We're here for you, and we will be here for you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Easton and then Meg Shannon.
Good evening. For the record, Kevin Easton, 8511 40th Terrace North, Palm Beach Gardens. First, I wanted to talk about safety, and I know that's all big in your area because you're here to protect the residents and everything. Last month, I didn't get the answer as to why we need help getting out of Sunset Drive. Our neighborhood is just inundated with traffic, and with the FDOT meetings and everybody that's looked into this, we still don't have a good solution for that. I've saw that you have tried to save most of the businesses in the area, and I congratulate you on that, but we need to save the people, and we need safety for the residents that egress and go into our neighborhood. And I don't know where we are at on that, but we still need to work with the FDOT because this is a big issue, and adding another lane, and for years I've come up here and talked to the council, and none of you were up there, and hopefully you'll hear me now because we need help there. This is a dangerous intersection, and years ago when I started to mention this last time, Gordon and Donner had come before you to open and expand their building, and you guys granted them commercial. You changed the residential medium to commercial, and they still haven't built anything. Maybe you could work with them. Maybe they could find a new place in our city, and we could get an egress over to that to the parking lot. But I don't know who's working on that. But again, the FDOT had a right turn option, and it hasn't been discussed, or haven't heard it discussed here. And I'd like to know if anybody knows exactly what that was and how we can maybe make that work. I also have another issue is, Maria, you said that we need to work with all of the rest of the cities and the counties and all the entities around here. We certainly still need to do that with the county here because the county has a canal that runs right through our property or all through your city. The city maintains part of that canal, but they don't maintain the whole thing. I don't understand why. Again, it would only help our neighborhood out and everybody else in drainage and everything else. That canal needs to be looked at. There was a weir that actually washed out, and the city, I guess the city replaced it with their money. I'm not sure where that money came from. But again, we do need to look at that because, as you know, we all were annexed in 2003, and the roads back then were not annexed into the city. I don't know why that or how that happened or why that happened, but now we are fully annexed into the city, and we do deserve as much help as possible because our neighborhood is improving daily. I mean, you go down there and you look at it, and it's getting better and better all the time. I love it, and hopefully I'll never have to go anywhere. But if all this traffic still piles up at the beginning of the street and we can't get out, you're going to lose a lot of residents down there. People are going to move, and it's just not the best thing for everybody down there. So I thank you for your time, and I really want to work with all of you to make sure that we can get this issue addressed before it gets too far down the road. Okay?
Thank you, Kevin. Meg Shannon and then Dave Markarian.
Hello, my name is Meg Shannon, 1111 Orinoco Way, Palm Beach Gardens. And actually I'm here in two capacities tonight. First, Sal Faso from the North County Neighborhood Coalition asked that I just mention to you that he couldn't stay, unfortunately, but he wanted to let you know that what the process will be for the North County Neighborhood Coalition to look at the proposed city charter changes. A presentation was made at the last NCNC meeting, and that's been made available to all of the members, the communities who are members of NCNC, and they're to take that back to their communities and get back to NCNC and provide their views, and then they'll formulate a position. So you'll be hearing from Sal in the future. The second capacity is I'm speaking as one of the members of the Charter Review Committee, and I'd like to support the proposals that the committee made to the council. There are some people who are trying to foster opposition to these proposals, and I have to wonder why that is. Many of them are folks who've worked hard to get a provision on the ballot in the past to establish term limits, and I commend and congratulate them in their hard work because they were successful. But I wonder why they are so opposed to letting voters have another version of term limits to consider. Don't they trust the voters? Our committee never intended to destroy or eliminate term limits, so any comments to suggest that we did do that are totally wrong and inappropriate. There are various structures for term limits in cities throughout the state of Florida, and how many choices were voters given the last time it was on the ballot? They were given one choice, and that was 2 terms of 3 years. But who got to pick that structure that was presented to the voters? A very small group of people. I don't think there were any polls or surveys to see what other options might have been viewed favorably by the citizens of Palm Beach Gardens. I think whatever version was going to be presented at that vote, because term limits are a popular option, would have passed regardless of what version it was. And I don't think the proponents of keeping the current version of term limits can conclusively state that no other option would have been adopted by our voters. Voters usually get it right. Sometimes it takes more time, but eventually they get it right. So I encourage the council to allow voters the chance to weigh in on what they want now that there's been some experience and recognition that the current time limits may be too short for effective government over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Markarian and then Ira Scheibel.
Hi, I'm Dave Markarian. I'm a resident of Palm Beach Gardens. It's my first time in front of the commission, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why I'm up here. I lived here once before. I moved away. Corporate employer you might have heard of, FPL NextEra. They moved me away, and I went to D.C. My job was politics, and it involved local government, state government. I had responsibility for the relationship the company had with the White House, Congress, so I learned a few things about politics. Then when I was done up there, I said, where am I going to go next? Where am I going to live? Where am I going to retire to? I wanted to come back here because it's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise kids, and I like the people here. And I can sit on any bar stool on PGA Boulevard, meet somebody fascinating, and make a new friend. And I really wanted to live in a community where I could shape it and grow old here. So on the issue of term limits, I actually have an opinion because I've lived it, and it's not all it's cracked up to be is kind of my message. I like to joke, the Founding Fathers planned term limits. They're called elections. And so all we have to do is get off our butts, vote, and we get who we want in office, and we get out who we don't want of office. And I have worked as a corporate lobbyist in places where they have very robust term limits, very short term limits. Sacramento, California, for example. So a wise person once told me, everything in moderation. So in California, really short term limits, it means people are in and out. They never develop an expertise. Staffers are heavily relied upon. There's a person in California they call the 41st senator. There are only 40 senators in the California legislature, but unless you have that one staffer's okay, nothing's going to happen. So we have to be very careful about making sure that we develop a system of government that makes a whole lot of sense and that we can influence. The other problem can be, not here, because I've gotten to know these folks, most of them, very well because I'm active in the chamber, so I know we have a really strong group of elected officials, a really strong staff, a really strong city manager, so we're lucky. But what I've also seen where term limits are in place and you have the ability to influence, special interests have the ability to influence more readily government decisions. So that's not healthy either. So then from the standpoint of business, businesses want continuity. They want to know that they can go to a community and rely upon the political climate and there's not going to be crazy people throwing darts at them and they can invest. Businesses actually don't care what public policy is. If businesses are told what the policy is going to be for a period of 4 or 5 years, or even better, if business is told in 3 years we're going to implement this rule, they'll adjust and make money. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's be sensible about what we do. Let's take a measured look at this and vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Irish Scheibel and then Patrick Connors.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Irish Scheibel, 1029 Sienna Oaks, Circle West. I don't know whether or not you'll be discussing the charter some more this evening. I certainly hope that you do, and I'd like to offer some additional points for your consideration. City manager residence was controversial in 2012. Leaving the change as part of the base charter cleanup would require that the ballot question include that in order for it to be accurate, because it is a policy change, or you should place it as a separate ballot question. In the 2012 and 2006 charter reviews, the last times that there were proposals to change from majority to plurality wins, both councils rejected the change. In fact, none of the items that were proposed in 2006 that couldn't be accomplished administratively were placed on the ballot or even got to the point of having ordinances developed for a vote. In 2011, Palm Beach County did a several-month charter review outreach, plus an online survey yielding hundreds of suggestions, summarized, prioritized, and discussed in a special November workshop where the County Commission discussed the top items for an hour and a half and then chose to place none on the November 2012 ballot. At least they had a workshop. So please recognize that what you ultimately choose to put on the ballot has nothing to do with honoring the work of a 5-member charter review committee. It's solely your decision as a council. All of you were elected knowing that you were limited to the maximum of 2 consecutive 3-year terms. One of you was the cause of the appeals court ruling and was seated as a result. One phrase I've heard at meetings, not so much in the gardens, but more often at the county level is, the right people aren't here to speak, the right people didn't vote, the right people are generally the ones who agree with the elected's position, the quote, educated people. Please think about that as you deliberate, since the people you interact with most in your council jobs most frequently are those asking for your decisions or help, are interested in the stability of the council so they know how their projects or future requests will be received, and they may have already become the right people for you. Should you decide to place a 3rd consecutive term on the March ballot, as well as allow those term limited to run again, it will be with the intent of overturning, and I use the word overturning because term limits as it currently stands, it would be overturning what term limits as it currently stands. A ballot item passed by over 16,000 voters and a court ruling. It's not due to a clamoring by those 16,000 people, but perhaps due to clamoring by those who have become your, quote, right people. You'll be acting in your own self-interest. I too want a cleaned up charter, but please make that your only ballot item and leave term limits and elections alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick Connors and then Anita Carbone.
Hello. My name is Patrick Connors. My address is 5002 Vinecliff Way in Palm Beach Gardens. I have lived in this city for 46 years. I am not a super voter, but I do vote and I do pay attention to what's going on in my community where I was raised. I went to elementary, middle school, and high school here, and I was here when I-95 ended at PJ Boulevard, and I was here before PJ National and Ballin Isles were developed. I know all about the last council, the ball field proposal off of 117th, and the uproar over for many years. I know that is exactly why the term limit initiative was started, to in fact remove the last 5 council members. Here's a fact. Prior to the term limit initiative, 3 of the term limit committee members ran for the city council and lost. One of them 3 times so far. What message does that send to us regular people? When talking to other citizens in random conversations, we discussed on how we go from career council members to something so opposed to a 2-year, 3-year limit. And furthermore, there is a consensus about what a great job this current council is doing in such a short time and what a difference the city is. I can see it with my own eyes. I do not want to see our city council flip-flopping every 3 to 6 years. I am not sure how anyone can make sense of that. I know that this council on many occasions personally argued with the Department of Transportation on the massive overpass and the off-ramps they intended to put on North Lake Boulevard and I-95. They were going to take land and put people and businesses out of work. But because of this council went to the meetings and argued for us citizens, we are getting less invasive ramps and no one is losing their land and jobs. I know Councilmember Woods is personally trying to get the Department of Transportation to add a double on-ramp lanes for eastbound PGA Boulevard and to get the traffic onto I-95 southbound. PGA and military is ridiculously backed up and is worse during the season. These are not 3 to 4 year projects. I've always wanted to see what's best for this city. Maybe it's just me, but I want our council members to be a strong, united body to direct the city staff on how to do business based on citizen input. How do they do that if they're not long enough to be an established council member? I do support 3 3-year term limits, and I do not support any sit-outs. Once you're done, you're done. I hope you're paying attention to what's going on in Riviera Beach. Make no doubt about it, it's a divided council and is spilling over to its citizens. Is this what we want for our city? I truly hope not. Do the right thing and simply extend the limits to 1 3-year or 1 3-more-year term. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita Carbone and then Stan Klett.
Hello, Anita Carbone, 11 Thurston Drive, Palm Beach Gardens. I am a firm believer in term limits and not a believer in the fact that elections are term limits for various reasons, which we won't go into tonight. Therefore, I believe a predetermined set number of years to serve on this council in particular is not only consistent with other cities in Florida, but a necessity. Speaking as a past president of a condominium association and currently as president of an HOA, I understand the need for continuous years to develop true knowledge of the community and its present and future needs. There needs to be a harmonious flow between council, community, and business. This takes not just dedication, which I'm sure you all have, but time. I support the 3-3 suggested term limit, although I originally thought it was too soon to present the change. I now understand the timing is to avoid a complete change of city council members every 6 years. That would be disastrous. It is almost an obligation you have as council people to avoid that from happening. The 3-3 choice accomplishes, in my view, 3 things. 1, it provides enough time for projects to be presented, researched, and created, and just maybe be seen to fruition. 2, it allows for better understanding of the needs of those residents or communities involved. And 3, it permits residents, council, and staff to create smoother communications. The 3-3 serves as an overseer of sorts. You have 9 years to do your job as well as you can. There may be other well-intended, excellent candidates who do not offer their services if there is no term limit. That would be an injustice to the city. After 3 years, you should be fairly comfortable with the ins and outs of the city. After 6, you should be very comfortable. And after 9, you should be more than ready to exit. Thank you.
Thank you. Stan Klett and then Bill Champlin.
Evening, Council. My name is Stan Klett. I'm an attorney in Palm Beach Gardens. I've been here since 1988. I've seen a lot go on in Palm Beach Gardens. As a matter of fact, at one time, my firm represented this very city. You're ably represented by Mr. Lohman now, but at one time we were the council. Saw a lot go on. I'm here to speak about the term limits because I've seen unlimited term limits, I see limited term limits, and I've heard some very good points made by the people that have spoken already. I don't want to reiterate their points, though I believe many of them are well taken. When it was put up on the ballot, there wasn't an option. I think you should give that option to the voters, the ones that voted for it in the first place. Had they been given an option, they may well have taken the longer. Having served as a past president of the Palm Beach County Bar Association and having served in a capacity much like you, there was a 6-year learning process before I really understood everything that went on, all the projects that go on and all the things, and to be able to listen to the other attorneys and the people that I was serving, to have the voice, to listen to them. It's hard to take that in, incorporate it, and perform it in only 3 years. It's hard to do it in only 6 years. I believe in 9 years, as some of the people have said, that is a good point where you've done your time. 3 years to learn, 3 years to perform, and 3 years to finish out. I think that makes sense. Now, from a business perspective, I'll echo some of what Mr. Matheson said on behalf of the PGA Corridor Committee. Continuity. You're a business person. You want continuity. You want to know that you have some sort of consistent behavior and goals and policies of the board. You are investing in that when you come into a community. I can tell you back in 2004, I changed firms. And one of the requirements when I changed that firm is, okay, my salary, yes, my staff, yes. But the other thing that I required is I want to be on PGA Boulevard. I want to be between the intercoastal right-of-way, and I want to be between the turnpike. I've got to have that location there. I don't want your job. I brought that job here. I brought in 12 people. I brought in employees, and they were with me, and we were on the Chase Bank building, and we brought business to this community, and I was proud to be here, and I'm proud when I drive down PGA Boulevard. You drive down other boulevards, and you just don't see that. You've done a good job. People before you did a good job. I expect you to continue a good job. I just want to let you know that I think it's with 6 years, it's not enough. 9 years, I think, is just about right. I love a microphone, but I know I'm limited, so thank you for your time and attention.
Bill Champlin, and then Jane Feinstein.
Thank you, council members. I'm Bill Champlin, and I've lived here since 2000 in Palm Beach Gardens. I'm presently the president of the Community Association at Ballin Isles, where we have 1,575 homes and condominiums. I've seen all of you before because you've either been at our candidate nights that we sponsor where we have attendance of our residents, or you've been at various other meetings of our community association where we've given you an opportunity to speak about things like traffic or other issues that you find interesting. I think a lot of our residents were clearly in favor of term limits. I'm here to do two things tonight, one as a representative of the community and one on my own. As a representative of the community, I want to thank you all for the work you did during hurricane relief. I heard you talking about the picking up of the debris. We did that as well. Our community spent about $700,000 picking up debris, and we appreciated the help we had from the city almost from the first moment after the storm passed. And I thank you for that. That was very, very helpful and excellent work on behalf of the city. And so I do want to thank you for that. On my own behalf, I've listened to the discussion about term limits. I spent most of the September and October time frame in Indonesia with my daughter, who's a diplomat there, and so I didn't get to participate on those occasions, but I will tell you I favor the three-year system. I favor it for three reasons. First, I think it gives you an excellent opportunity to evaluate the candidates. The first year they're elected, there's an election. When they run again after 3 years, there's an election. And if they want to try to go for 9, there's an election. So you have 3 elections to evaluate somebody in a period of 6 years. I think that's better than 2 elections that stretch over 8 years. And so I think that gives the voters which is the whole point of term limits, to give the voters a chance to speak. Second, when you really think about it, if you were executive managers of a major company, if you were the board of directors of a company, would you hire a senior executive with the idea that this person cannot be with our company after 6 years? You would say, I need this person to learn the job, I need them to get into the job, I need them to manage, I need them to lead. I don't need them to have to leave as a senior manager after 6 years. Nobody would operate a business that way, and we certainly shouldn't operate our city that way. And then finally, I do think the voters will react well if someone doesn't perform. And by having it 3, 3, and 3, you're going to have 3 opportunities in the first 6 years to make that evaluation. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Jane Feinstein, and then last is Eric Jablin.
Jane Feinstein, 3666 Toulouse Drive in Frenchman's Creek. I'm here this evening to express my support for the recommendations of the Charter Review Committee, particularly the recommendation on term limits. There are 3 reasons for my support. First, communities like the one in which I live, and as others have said, local businesses as well, are looking for continuity and stability in our city government. We try to build solid long-term relationships. Stability helps us plan our future and make better decisions as a community. 3 3-year terms would help ensure that stability, which I believe is one of the keys to the success of our city. If you look at the past, we had very stable city governments, and we've had tremendous success as a city. Second, there's a maxim that says that to properly plan where you're going, you have to understand where you've been. So this is also true of our city. 2 3-year terms are really not enough to maintain the council's institutional memory, and institutional memory is definitely not overrated. Very, very important. 3 3-year terms would be a step in the right direction. Third, running our city is a very complex undertaking, as you well know. And as a result, the learning curve for a new council member is steep. By the time a new council member, no matter how involved, how dedicated, how much time he or she spends, learns the intricacies of city governance, much of his or her first term has passed. City residents should have the benefits of that trip down the learning curve for at least 2 full terms. So first term, city council member learns and then really has 2 full terms to manage and lead. So in sum, I urge you to accept the recommendation of the Charter Review Committee. Thanks.
Thank you. Eric Jablin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Eric Jablin, 184 Thornton Drive, Palm Beach Gardens. Congratulations, Mayor Marino, on your honor. And you guys are doing a great job. I very much appreciate it. I know my colleague in the audience appreciates it. I'm here to talk to you tonight about term limits. I attended the October 12th council meeting, and I listened to the presentation by Brian Seymour, representing the Charter Review Committee. Firstly, I want to thank Brian and all the members of the Charter Review Committee for doing this job and doing it very, very well. I also listened to the arguments made by the members of the Palm Beach Gardens Needs Term Limits Committee. And frankly, I heard nothing constructive that would help fix a problem that they caused. For over 50 years, this city operated without term limits for the city council members. When I moved here over 30 years ago and began to get politically active, I was encouraged to run for city council, and when I threw my hat in the ring and ran against a 3-term incumbent, I lost. By the way, that incumbent was this young man's father, a wonderful guy. But instead of complaining, I picked myself up, I reorganized, and I ran again. And lo and behold, I and 2 other people who had never run for public office won seats on this very city council. My point is, it does not take term limits to get new blood into city politics. You don't have to game the system in order to win. You just need to have determination, energy, and a good, positive message. People say that power of incumbency is difficult to overcome, and that may be true, but if the incumbents are doing a good job, what's wrong with that? If you're doing a good job, you should be returned to office. That's called stability, and people have talked about stability here tonight. And that's what everybody should want in their local government. It's no secret that I've always been an opponent of term limits. I believe that elections are the ultimate term limit. I'm a tough campaigner, and I want to win. But ultimately, you win or lose on your record. And if people are happy, they'll vote for you. And if they're not, they'll vote you out of office in a heartbeat, I know. In 2014, the public had a chance to vote on term limits, and yes, the voters have spoken, and term limits are now codified in our charter. I have to accept that concept, but I believe that the language presently in our charter is ambiguous, poorly crafted, and open to misinterpretation. I also believe that two three-year terms is not enough time for any council person to properly do their job and do it well. Think about it. You campaign. That's all right. I'm taking a privilege, if you don't mind. Well, I'm going to keep going. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but...
Excuse me, but I have earned this privilege. And if you don't like it, you can leave. Now I'm going to do this. And if you don't like it again, you can leave. Think about it. You campaign. Your message makes sense. You get elected for 3 years. You learn the job. You run for re-election, and you get elected for another 3 years. Now you're term limited. You're not beholden to anyone. You're a lame duck because you no longer have to face re-election. This is precisely why I've always opposed term limits. There's no accountability. And by the way, two 4-year terms doesn't work either for the same obvious reasons. In light of these concerns, I was very pleased that this council appointed a charter review committee to revisit this and other issues in our charter in order to make recommendations to put practical and workable alternatives on the March ballot for the voters to choose from. Which brings me to the timing of this election. Mr. Dinnerstein at this October meeting said others have attacked the timing of this issue. They say this issue should be placed on the November ballot to give more exposure to the issue. Firstly, this is how we got to where we are today. The 2014 ballot language was poorly crafted and confusing, but despite that, 79% of the voters voted for it. I contend that placed on the end of a crowded 2014 ballot, all anyone saw was term limits. And in today's frustrated with government atmosphere, they voted for it without truly understanding the underlying local consequences. I just have one more paragraph. The point is moot, however, because the supervisor election has already told the city that she's not willing to allow any local initiatives on the November statewide ballot. The only way to fairly get a decision which truly reflects the will of the people on this issue is to put it on the ballot with no other issues and no other candidates and let an educated electorate decide this issue. Those who feel strongly about this issue will come out and vote for it or vote against it. And while I'm at it, let me dispel this whole homespun narrative from Palm Beach Gardens needs term limits that the petitions that were gathered to put the term limit issue on the ballot in 2014 was a grassroots movement. I was approached at the post office, at the library, at the Green Market, and in parking lots outside the polls by paid professionals seeking my signature for this ballot initiative. Someone paid them. This was not an all-volunteer initiative by a long shot. So I'm very grateful. And just one other thing. For those of you who are worried about me running again,
They left.
okay, for city council, just let me say this. I'm very grateful and privileged to have had the opportunity to serve this community over the past 26 years, at a time when our city was experiencing some of the most challenging issues of growth and expansion in its history. I am so proud of what we as a city council have accomplished in those 26 years to make this city such a wonderful place to live. I suspect that many of you feel the same way about this city. But my time is over, and now it's up to you, this new council, to carry on and make this great city even greater. So let me speak plainly. I do not have any plans to run again for the city council. Thank you for your time and for serving this city that we all love and respect. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay. Boy, we're just getting to the city manager's report. So, do we have a city manager's report this evening?
Yes, thank you much, Mayor and Council. I have one issue to bring before you this evening. While we in Palm Beach Gardens were extremely fortunate to get through Hurricane Irma with, comparatively speaking, manageable damage, our fellow Floridians down in the Keys were not quite as lucky. In the days following the Hurricane Irma, the Telecommunicator Emergency Response Task Force request went out asking for assistance in that area to relieve some of the emergency communication centers who were heavily impacted in their jurisdictions. We were fortunate enough to have two of our own emergency communication volunteers to volunteer. Our supervisors volunteer for such duty. And for tonight, I would like to ask Chief Steve Stepp to come forward and recognize those two individuals who volunteered to go down and help out and relieve those communication supervisors in the Keys.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Charlotte Terrio and Kirsten Tucker. Both are emergency communication supervisors in our Northcom 911 center. Charlotte has over 20 years of experience, and Kirsten has more than 5 years of service with the city. Both are veteran dispatchers with many hours of advanced training. This includes certification as tactical dispatchers for large-scale events and disaster response. As part of the statewide request from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, they responded to the Florida Keys for 6 days. They were based out of the Marathon Airport, where they worked 12-hour midnight shifts, answering emergency calls for service and dispatching all sorts of first responders from around the state of Florida. A tent city was erected at the airport where they had to sleep in tents. Unfortunately, working the midnight shift, they had to sleep during the day, and the airport was open during the day. So they came back after 6 days pretty tired, but they worked through those conditions. There was one incident, I believe, where a prop blast almost blew their tent away. So we're fortunate that they were able to make it back. But we're very proud that they immediately volunteered as soon as the call came out, that all the extra training they've taken gave them the expertise to handle it, and they truly made a difference, and we're proud of the way they represented Palm Beach Gardens in a state of emergency. So I'd like to introduce Charlotte and Kirsten.
We just want to thank you for all your support and all the equipment from our department when they sent us down to this mission. We weren't sure what the conditions were going to be, but we received everything we needed, and we appreciate your support in supporting another agency.
Thank you. Can we have a picture?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay. We are on the consent agenda. May I have a motion to, I got to hold on.
I've got all kinds of things on consent. I need to recuse myself from Purchase Award A 2017-132 PS. So I will not vote on that, and I'll go sit down.
Item C.
That's the purchase award for the real estate brokerage services. So I've got a conflict there. That's number one. Number two is on the minutes. I need to pull the minutes. I've got a one-sentence.
Those minutes have been corrected as per your request already.
Thank you. So that's set there. And with that, I guess I have to go sit down for that one. Well, you know what? We'll vote on this, and then how should we do this, Max? What's the procedure?
You need to pull item C.
Okay. May I pull item C, and as amended, may I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda minus item C?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now, since item C has been pulled, do we have discussion?
Motion.
Okay. May I have a motion and a second?
May I ask a question first, if you don't mind?
Sure.
I just wanted to clarify, and you did clarify it at the other meeting, but there was an interesting letter to the editor in the paper today in regards to the property that, yes, that one right there, in regards to the property that the city has initiated a sale. I certainly don't think that the mayor should be involved in that type of work for the city directly, but I wanted to clarify that property, does it have historical?
No.
Any historical reference?
No. And I'll tell you why. And I'm very blunt on this because I did send a response back. I did get an email. I will make it brief. There was an article in today's Palm Beach Post. It was not an article. It was an opinion. Many of the items in this opinion were not factually correct. The city did not start at this building, this Public Works building. We started, and you can go, this is fact, you can go on our website, go into our meeting minutes that are archived, and you will see that the first meeting in 1959, we were incorporated, and the address of where we were incorporated was 1001 Park Avenue in Lake Park. The meetings were there, and I can't remember the dates offhand. Meetings were there, I think, for about 4 years. Hold on, I will.
1967 to 71, there were meetings in the public.
Yes, 1967 to 1971 is when there were meetings in this building. This building was originally a Dr. Pepper plant. It has no historic value. We also had meetings in a bowling alley. We also had meetings in the junior high school. We also had meetings at Meridian Ways Clubhouse. So there is no historic value to this piece of property. And since Mark brought it up, and yes, the mayor is a real estate broker, what a city, we are not in the business of selling real estate. That is not what we do. We hire experts to help us when we need help. We hire architects to help us when we need to have a building designed or redesigned, when we have staff that could do it, but we are not the experts in these things. So as a real estate, we are not experts in real estate. We need to have experts that are. We need to have people that have a long-standing knowledge of the business in the community, and I am commented out. I hope that answers your question.
It does, and with that, unless there's any other discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we approve purchase order C in the consent agenda.
You have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. We do not have any quasi-judicial this evening, so we are now going to go to... Oh, I got to keep turning pages here. Ordinance 20-2017. May I have the clerk read the title, please? Am I on the right page?
Ordinance 20, 2017, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 62 of the city's Code of Ordinances to provide for the co-location of small wireless facilities or micro wireless facilities on existing utility poles or the installation of new utility poles to support the co-location of small wireless facilities or micro wireless facilities in city-owned rights-of-way, and amending the definitions to be consistent with Section 337.401 Florida statutes, providing for a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and further purposes.
I'll open the hearing, and does staff have a presentation for us?
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Peter Hoffhines, City of Palm Beach Gardens Planning and Zoning Department, here to present Ordinance 20. Ordinance 20 is a reaction to a law that was passed this past year in the state of Florida. Basically, it was called the Advanced Wireless Infrastructure Deployment Act. And what this law did is it preempted the city from outright denying the ability for wireless companies to co-locate wireless facilities in city-owned right-of-ways. What it did allow us to do was to develop some objective design guidelines for those infrastructure facilities, and so that's what this petition is before you tonight, to amend our code. So we're doing a few things. First of all, the city's right-of-ways are regulated through Chapter 62 of our Land Development Code, which regulates streets, sidewalks, and public spaces. So what we're doing first is eliminating conflicts in this chapter with the new state law. We're adding new definitions such as utility pole, the way the state defines it now, wireless facility, wireless services. There's a few others that are listed in the ordinance and in the staff report, and those definitions are straight from statute. And then we're amending the chapter to establish some of that objective design criteria that the law allows us to do while limited. So the first objective design criteria we are placing into the chapter now is that any new utility poles that come in shall be a similar design material to those within 250 feet of that. So if there's all concrete poles, we would ask that the new utility pole be concrete versus maybe spun aluminum or spun fiber or a wooden pole there, so we create some consistency along the roadway. The next two are related to sort of the ground-mounted equipment and the public safety aspect of the installation of these facilities. So wireless facilities, including the ground-mounted equipment, needs to be placed to not interfere with the safe operation of traffic control equipment, sight lines or clear zones for transportation, pedestrians, and public safety purposes. And also it can't be placed so as to not interfere with the intended purpose of swales and driveways and things like that, which for drainage and access. So this is to prevent a ground equipment cabinet from being placed right in the middle of a sidewalk where a pedestrian would have to walk around it, which doesn't make much sense, or from being placed in a safe sight triangle at an intersection where it would obstruct the view of a driver that's looking to make a right-hand turn. The next two are how we're going to try and address the aesthetics of some of these wireless facilities. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky according to the way the law was written. So the way that the law was written is we can request that these applicants paint the equipment cabinets, maybe try to screen them with some landscaping or place them in an area that's not as visible. But again, that's just a request. If the applicant finds the request to be unreasonable or too costly, they can let us know that, and then we can start over with them through the permitting process on where they can place those equipment. The second one is we can also request them to be no closer than 500 feet to other existing ground-mounted equipment that's only servicing for the same carrier. So we can't really limit the number that they place or kind of where they go, but we can certainly ask them. Some additional changes that we're doing in the chapter are changing the height from 20 feet to 10 feet. So now the wireless antennas can only be 10 feet above on the pole as opposed to 20. And we will continue to prohibit towers within the right-of-way. We just can't, the way the law is written now, we were preempted from prohibiting the wireless new utility poles in city-owned right-of-ways. So I just want to stress, we're still requiring registration, insurance, a building permit, but I want to just stress that this is only for city-owned right-of-ways. We don't have any jurisdictional control over state roads or county roads, and so it'll be interesting to see any changes that come from the state transportation department or the county as they try to deal with this new law too. It went to the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board, where it was recommended for approval, and staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 2017 on first reading.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm going first, which is not usually what I do, but I'm probably going to just say what everyone else wants to say, which is this is another attack on home rule. And it's obvious that the city has very limited power in what we can and cannot do. I'm just hoping that safety is, we can be safe in this and that we can influence them enough to be safe. And the word influence there is minimal. I mean, I know we'll have minimal influence in anything design related. I just hope they take into consideration what they're doing and they don't lessen the beauty of what is Palm Beach Gardens. And quite frankly, what other choice do we have? Any other comments? Rochelle?
Question. How many wireless carriers are there currently? How fast is that number growing? And who approves the carriers that are going to be allowed to enter this market, who can come and do this?
I'm not an expert in the wireless communications field, but I know there's AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. So there's probably about 4 or 5, major wireless carriers. The city engineer can maybe elaborate a little bit on the approval process through the building permit.
The way we issue the right-of-way permits to the carriers is if they were approved through the State Communications Commission, if they were an approved vendor. And there's several different vendors who actually install it that we actually don't even know who the carriers are for. But there's several approved vendors and carriers through the State Commission. That's who approves them. So if they have the certificate through the State Communications Commission, then we issue them right-of-way permits at no cost for the communications.
So it's the State Communications Commission that authorizes the carrier to begin with?
Yes.
I mean, so we don't...
And their contractors and their subcontractors.
So it's possible if there's 6, 7, 8 that we could have 6, 7, 8 boxes 500 feet apart down the right-of-way if each one of them wants one.
Yeah, it's, like I said,
Lovely
attack on home rule.
non-choice.
Yes. Matthew?
I have nothing to add.
Carl?
I kind of went a different direction with kind of attacking this because I know we didn't really care for the invasiveness of this law passing in our city. Like, what are we going to do if there's 20 boxes along the PGA corridor? None of us will like that. So I met with House Representative Rick Roth, and we spent probably a couple hours together, and he knew that we collectively were not happy with this, and he assured me that he has already reiterated to the wireless facilities, whichever vendors they may be, to put them on notice that if they come in and they try and flex their muscles because of this law, that they will revisit this issue and either, I want to say redacted, I know it's not the right word, but he's put them on notice to work with the community so we don't have these boxes up on every corner. So I kind of put him on notice that we're watching him because everybody's watching us. So there you have it.
Mark, anything to add?
Just very briefly, I mean, I think the majority of the people are comfortable with the progress of wireless communications throughout our city. It's happening on PJ Boulevard now. I think just the hard part is just having to sit back and say nothing. We have nothing to offer, nothing to suggest to the process. And I think that's what's most frustrating about these types of things. So I truly hope that Representative Roth and the state legislature will maybe revise. I don't hold my breath on that, but hopefully the League of Cities will have some influence on the leadership in Tallahassee and remind them that home rule is really what drives proper government.
Thank you. So I will close the hearing, and may I get a motion and a second, please?
Madam Mayor, go ahead, Michelle.
Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 20, 2017.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Do we have any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Motion carries. Okay, we are on to the next item on our agenda, and that would be ordinance 21. Patty, would you read the title, please?
Ordinance 21, 2017, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 78 Land Development at Section 78-159, permitted uses, minor and major conditional uses, and prohibited uses by amending Table 21, permitted, conditional, and prohibited use chart to add electric automobile showroom, further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-221, PGA Boulevard Corridor Overlay by repealing subsection D and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-751 to adopt new definitions, electric automobile showroom, electric automobile, and hybrid automobile, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 Land Development shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
I will open a hearing, and hello there. And we'll have a presentation.
Yes, good evening. For the record, my name is Jennifer Morton with J. Morton Planning and Landscape Architecture, and I appreciate the opportunity to present this application to you tonight. Also with me is Tom Carnes, whom everyone knows here. He's with the Forbes Company, and also Byron Knowlson. He is the lead architect with Tesla. I am here tonight representing both Tesla and the Gardens Mall in our request to amend the land development regulations. But before I get into the specifics of the LDRs, I want to give you a little bit of background on what we're requesting. I know all of you are familiar with the Tesla vehicle and the fact that Tesla was the first and for the longest time the only luxury electric vehicle. Tesla set the gold standard in luxury automobiles as far as the electric vehicle goes. But what you might not know is that Tesla also is a trendsetter in how the consumer purchases the automobile. Just like Amazon revolutionized internet shopping, well, Tesla has created a totally different shopping experience for purchasing their automobile. Tesla strategically locates their high-end shopping bays in shopping districts, and they look for retail districts that where they can purchase about 4,000 square feet. They are currently located in the Boca Mall, the Aventura Mall down in Miami, and they're looking at space in Coral Gables. They're all throughout the country, and they're headquartered in California. In order for Tesla to open their retail bay at the Gardens Mall, they needed an amendment to the land development regulations. So we've been working closely with staff, and we've created a new category for the electric automobile vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and go through those regulations with you now of what we're proposing to change.
Before you do, everybody's freezing in here. Is it possible to turn up, make it not so cold?
Everybody but me?
Yeah.
Well, I'll go really fast, so I think I'm last up. Okay. So we are requesting to amend the sections of the city's land development regulations, specifically Chapter 78, to add a new category called electric automobile showroom. There are 3 sections of the land development regulations that need to be amended. The first is the permitted use category, or the use matrix. The second is the PGA Boulevard Corridor Overlay, and the third section is the definition section. The first section dealing with permitted uses, what we did is we worked with staff to amend the chart to add a new use identified here as the showroom electric automobile use. This use is only allowed in two categories, the CG1 and the CG2 district. And we've identified an additional note to further restrict the use of that electric automobile showroom. So I'm going to go over the further restrictions that have been added to the land development regulations for this particular use. We've added a restriction that it must be approved as a major conditional use, which means that it has to go before the PZAB, and it also has to go before City Council. We've prohibited this use in any mixed-use zoning district. Another prohibition is that automobiles displayed shall not be elevated from the ground in any manner. No test drive shall be conducted on any residential local street. No on-site automobile storage or stock beyond the showroom, and automobiles for test drives are not allowed. Automobiles on display within the showroom shall not be driven or sold from the premises except after business hours to change or exchange showroom display automobiles. The outdoor sale and/or display of sales signage for the electric automobiles is prohibited, so they'll only have their Tesla name within the mall area. No maintenance or repair of automobiles is permitted on site. The electric automobile showroom use is limited to electric automobiles or other similar electric automobiles only. The use of other types of automobiles in conjunction with the electric automobile showroom use, such as the hybrid automobile, personal watercraft, trailers, motorcycles, recreational automobiles, commercial trucks, mobile homes, buses, etc., is prohibited. And no more than 8 electric automobiles on site shall be used for test drive purposes at any given time. And finally, the showroom space is limited to a maximum size of 4,000 square feet with a maximum of 4 display vehicles permitted within the showroom space. The next section of the code that is being amended is the PGA Boulevard Corridor Overlay. The Gardens Mall is not within the PGA Boulevard Corridor Overlay. We added this language and working with staff to prohibit this use from being permitted within the overlay. So we added to the prohibited use section the electric automobile showroom. So the following uses are prohibited. We added electric automobile showroom as shown on this slide. And finally, under the definitions, we worked with staff as well as Byron from Tesla to develop some definitions. The first definition that we worked on was the definition for electric automobile showroom means a retail sales showroom for electric automobiles. The second definition was the electric automobile means an automobile powered through a collector system by electricity from off automobile sources, or may be self-contained with a battery or solar panels. Electric automobiles use electric motors and motor controllers for propulsion in place of more common propulsion methods such as internal and combustion engines. And then we contrasted the electric automobile with a hybrid automobile so there would be no confusion. So the hybrid automobile definition means an automobile that utilizes more than one form of onboard energy to achieve propulsion. In practice, that means a hybrid will have a traditional internal combustion engine and a fuel tank, as well as one or more electric motors and a battery pack. In summary, We've developed specific criteria for electric automobile showrooms that cannot be applied to the general showroom or automobile dealerships. Thereby, we've created a separate category for electric automobile showrooms that prevents the proliferation of car dealerships in the city. Secondly, the electric automobile showroom concept is fairly new to the retail market. Some of Tesla's earliest retail stores were opened in Bellevue Square, Washington, and Oak Brook Center, Illinois in 2011. The proposed text amendment updates the Land Development Code regulations and keeps up with the current retail trends. Tesla and other electric vehicles embody many of the green initiatives that the city promotes through the comprehensive plan, such as reducing greenhouse gas emissions and promoting a smaller carbon footprint. We have a recommendation of approval from staff, as well as a recommendation of approval from PZAB. We're requesting that you approve this first reading for the Land Development Regulation text amendments. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Thank you. Does staff have any additions?
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Erin Kelly. I'm a senior planner with the city's Planning and Zoning Department. I just want to show you a few additional things that you may or may not be aware of. The applicant has really gone through in great detail a lot that they have worked with staff on. We do recommend approval. The PGA, did want to outline a couple things. We did reach out to the PGA Corridor Association and the Chamber of Commerce. No objections have been made, and actually, the PGA Corridor Association is strongly supporting this amendment and is actually considering and would like staff to consider allowing it in other zoning districts. So that's something that should definitely be noted. I just wanted to mention that we have advertised this petition in the Palm Beach Post, and staff once again recommends approval of Ordinance 21, 2017 on first reading.
Thank you. I have no cards on this, so I will close the hearing. May I get a motion and a second? And then we will have discussion. We don't do this properly every day.
I know.
So let's have a motion and a second, and then we will have discussion.
I'll make the motion. I move that we adopt Ordinance 21, 2017.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Now, discussion. Any questions?
Just for clarification purposes, this is just to change the LDR, and that we will see all of the specifics as they come about, the ordinances, to determine the specifics on the showroom, where the cars will be, where the test drives will be, what it will look like.
Correct. So this ordinance approves this use to be put into the table, the chart of permitted uses as a major conditional use. That means that any applicant that wants to come forward with an electric automobile showroom in the city will separately have to be vetted by staff, get a recommendation from staff, go to the Planning and Zoning Board for a recommendation, and eventually be heard by to the City Council for approval. So you will see an applicant initiated request in the future for this use specifically.
Question also on the parts that are not allowed. Number I says the electric automobile showroom use is limited to electric automobiles and other similar electric automobiles only. What does that mean? That sounds redundant.
It means that we're just dealing with cars, and we're not dealing with trucks, and we're not dealing with we're not dealing with larger vehicles. There's so many different forms of vehicles. We wanted to create certain flexibility for the evolution of this industry. So that's what that means.
Anything that's considered an automobile and not a truck, or what size with the SUVs and everything now? Is there?
It would meet the definition. It would be consistent with the definition that's been included in the LDR change, which has been included in the ordinance.
Matthew? Sorry.
So, for example, the definition of electric automobile would include the electric SUV made by Tesla or any other manufacturer. So as long as it meets the definition of electric automobile.
Carl, any questions?
No, I just have a comment. It's kind of odd that this comes to us now. How many meetings about transportation and mobility in Palm Beach Gardens have we been to this month? Probably 10, 15? And I like this because it's so forward-thinking. We are right. This is like the very beginning, so it's really exciting to see the mall get involved in just the very first portion of what we're going to do on the corridor to bring the traffic signals. And now we've got this coming on board. So I think it's pretty awesome, and I've read this over and over and over. And I think the question that Rochelle asked, you answered it for me. So I just wanted to make a statement that I'm excited for the mall to do this. This is really going to be a good thing.
Mark.
No, I'm very much in favor of electric automobiles and the green imprint that it creates. I just wanted to make sure that this isn't going to be exclusive only to Tesla, that as all of the other potential electric cars come online, that if they wanted to come on and put a showroom somewhere along the corridor, that they had the same opportunity, that we're not just limiting it to one automobile company. So I think it's great.
Yes, that is correct. This legislation is non-discriminatory. It does not. It's not exclusive to Tesla. Any eligible candidate who meets the criteria is able to submit an application.
But this ordinance is specific to PGA Boulevard.
This ordinance is specific to the entire city, the entire city's jurisdictional boundaries, where CG1 and CG2 is provided, and it does not permit the use within the PGA overlay. The next application, which will be specific for Tesla in the Gardens Mall, will be their application, which you will be seeing next month being brought before.
Matthew.
I agree with Councilmember Woods. I think this is very forward-thinking. I think it's going to enhance the city, and I think that it's going to be great to have the charging stations around the mall. I think that's really going to be a service.
Maybe we can get Tesla to, give us a car that we could use for Tri-Rail, and we can use it as a shuttle and go around the loop. That would be fabulous. Just a quick point. There will be designated spots outside for Tesla to have their four or 5 test drive cars, but the signs will be little signs. Is that correct? Right. Or let me say this in another way.
And that'll all come before you
with the application that you will be voting on next month. All that information will be presented. But yes, as part of the application that staff has received that we will be presenting, there are designated spots that Tesla has outlined. So we'll show that next month in more detail.
Okay, so there won't be any additional signage on the mall. Okay, good. And also, just kudos to putting this on the agenda with FP&L, where we're really getting more forward thinking about solar and electric and trying to change our carbon footprint. So this is great, and I appreciate you bringing it to us. And with that, I think we have no more discussion. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Motion carries. Wow. Okay, so we are on. We move to resolutions. I don't think we have any resolutions, do we? Does council have anything they'd like to discuss?
Yes, I do. I received a request from former Mayor Levy, David Levy, about the Loxahatchee River Management Coordinating Council. Apparently, none of us have been designated to serve on that council or volunteered to serve on that council, and he would like to serve as our representative to that Loxahatchee River Management Coordinating Council. And there is some precedent for this, and that Gail Nelson served as a liaison for Juno Beach on the Seacoast Utility Board. And I think that it's commendable that David wants to stay involved and is willing to help us.
Is there any conflict of interest for David doing that with what he does for a living?
Absolutely not.
We do have, in a lot of occasions, have citizens appointed to committees. I know that if any citizens wanted to be part of some of the subcommittees of the MPO, they could. So it's not something that is uncommon. Max, we're okay with all of this?
Just takes a motion and a vote, ma'am.
Okay. May I have a motion to, why don't you make the motion?
I make the motion that David Levy be appointed to serve as our representative to the Loxahatchee River Management Coordinating Council.
Second?
Before the second, would he have to report to us on a regular basis, per meeting? Do we have a schedule for that? Do we have to set that up?
Do the second, then we have the discussion.
Then we discuss after. Okay, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Okay, now we have discussion. Go ahead.
He is threatening to report to us on a rather frequent basis.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and is there any more discussion? No?
I don't want to be the naysayer, but should we let this go through staff and Max's discussions? Not that I'm opposed to it, but I
I've already
haven't.
talked to Max and also to the city manager, so they thought about it.
What? Input?
There we go. So we had a motion. We had a second. We have discussion. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Anyone else have any items for council discussion? I know we'll have a long meeting next month.
Well, I would like to just
Oh, heavens.
certainly think that there should be just a little bit of discussion about what has transpired in the past month since the last meeting in regards to the Charter Review Committee. I don't want to make it very long because we are going to be meeting next month, and I'm sure there'll be more discussion about it. I know everyone wants to go home, but I got a number of calls and a number of emails like all of you did, and I think I'd just like a minute just to say a couple of words to the 6 people left in the room, or anybody that's listening. First of all, we have to remember that we're not trying to eliminate term limits. Secondly, we're not trying to tell anybody that they should or shouldn't do something in regards to term limits. Thirdly, we're trying to present something to the residents of our city and allow them to decide whether or not this is going to be done. And the reason this was, just as a reminder, was that over the past year and a half, we've all had numerous conversations with a lot of different people that have brought up the topic of term limits, from not wanting them to wanting to keep them as they are. And a number of people through the campaigning last year brought up the need to edit and change the charter, or at least discuss the charter and term limits and whether or not that was something that wanted to be done. I believe all of us want to do the right thing. We all had the same conversations with the same people about appointing a well-respected committee with a well-respected third-party mediator. I think everybody felt that the committee did their job well. And in my opinion, it wasn't my position to take their recommendations and not allow the residents of our city to weigh in on that. So that's my whole position, and I know no one wants to talk about this anymore, but we're going to continue to talk because we're going to have to, because it is an issue. I know many of you probably received the same emails I got. I'm certainly not afraid to voice my opinions to people, and I'm certainly not afraid for people to call and discuss with me. I spoke with some of the people in the audience here tonight, other people that are not here tonight that were a part of that, and I'm sure many of you have as well. I don't particularly like some of the emails and some of the comments. We are watching you. We know where you are. This is a good look. We live here. We go to the same restaurants that everybody that goes to. I'm on the soccer fields 5 days a week. We are everywhere with everybody else. We are not in Congress. We don't have layers of people between us and you. We are accessible. We're willing to talk. We're willing to listen. But I don't particularly like the threats. Now, I'm sure that's going to invite more, and that's fine. But I am here, and I'm willing to talk to anybody. If we don't agree, that's okay. As long as it's a good conversation, then that's all I ask from people. I don't particularly like the "we are watching" and the threats. So I don't think that means that anyone's going to come and knock on my door tonight. But at the same time, let's just please keep it civil, because that's what it's all about. And allowing the residents to have their final say on all of this, I think, is the final goal. So that's my comment, and that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mark, thank you. You did say what I would like to have said, and I agree about the emails. We've been getting positive emails. We've been getting negative emails. The negative emails are not nice in tone. Kind of makes it a little difficult to what's the word? Not negotiate, but to compromise when it is so pointed. We are doing the the job that we were elected to do. Part of that was to listen to the constituents. Charter review was very high on everybody's campaign trail. And it was, the Charter Review Committee was an independent committee of volunteers. So thank you for bringing that up, and I second that, and I look forward to a rousing discussion next month and the month after. And at this point in time, I think we have a city attorney's report or not?
I just have a request. We filed foreclosure in two code enforcement liens that we've had for quite a while, and the court has ordered mediation in it, and so the city manager and I are going to mediation November 17th to mediate the matter, and I wanted to request from the council that you would delegate the authority to the settlement authority of those foreclosure liens to the city manager.
Do you need a motion, Max?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a motion to that effect.
May I have a second? Is there any discussion? Thank you. November 17th.
November 17th.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you
Motion
very much.
carries.
That's all I got.
And at this point, it is now 9:10. Thank you, everybody, for sitting through. Julian, thank you for sitting through. And we are adjourned. And maybe